who's your garbage person of the week?
My garbage person of the week is Meghan McCain. Meghan McCain is very upset that Jon Stewart is going to be hosting The Daily Show 1 out of the 4 days a week they make daily shows. So please watch her throw a little hissy fit on her podcast you didn't know existed.
Now, I'm the first person to say when I was a teenager in my formative years, I loved The Daily Show. I thought it was so funny. I loved Jon Stewart. I remember when I actually got to go to the show in college because my dad was on and it was like amazing and I thought it was so good. And then I grew up and I became an adult and I had kids and I watched his Apple show and I was horrified at the sort of like creature he has morphed into. I found him to be like the most woke, I didn't recognize the Jon that I grew up loving. Now he's coming back to The Daily Show. My question for you is, A, why can't they pick a fucking host permanently? Number one. And number two, which version of Jon Stewart am I going to get?
We can say on this now.
Oh, yeah, you can say whatever you want. This is a podcast.
That was the most Meghan McCain there's ever been a McCain about, minus some crying and like, oh my God, how dare you? Because she's insulated herself from any kind of on-camera feuding. Like the beginning of her statement is like, I was able to go to the Daily Show because my dad. Like
dad.
And Meghan,
Wait,
maybe he hasn't
changed. Who's her dad? She didn't actually say.
Meghan McCain. Anyways, but yeah, her dad got her the ability to access a lot of this stuff. And anyways, but yeah, with Meghan, like maybe he didn't change, maybe you changed. Like the thing later on. What's that? Yeah, like in that the next thing that her guest says is, here's one problem with Jon Stewart. It's 5 syllables. Sanctimony us. And then they both go on to be as sanctimonious as you could possibly be. At the same time, even acknowledging that Jon Stewart went on Colbert's show and said what he said about like the Wuhan lab. Like this is the most fascinating dynamic ever, is like they are willing to overlook things that they are even saying out loud and just disregard that as though they aren't the thing they just said about the person. And because their job in their lazy taco sphere is to just say that any criticism of our side is wildly unfounded and done by woke monsters, they will completely ignore everything and focus on that.
Yeah, 100%.
So bad.
Yeah, I don't know. When I was in college, he seemed great, and you're a totally different person. You have obviously objectively changed way more than he has. It's possible that maybe the Meghan McCain of her sophomore year would have found dismissing anything that makes you even mildly uncomfortable as woke would be reductive. Maybe you would have put up a little bit more intellectual barriers to that sort of nonsensical oversimplification of everything that you don't like, or at least are supposed to perform as if you don't like for your podcast that, as Brett said, I didn't know existed. He is who he is, and he has been that person. And I'm sure there are many things that I don't agree with him on, but I feel like he's pretty honest about what he believes, and that's not a new thing. I think he's been fighting those battles for a very long time. I think that to the extent that you think that it's woke to like acknowledge that racism and misogyny exist, I feel like he would have done that back in the day, actually. I feel like he hasn't changed on that. I feel like you, in the pursuit of right-wing dollars, are the one that now won't acknowledge that those things are true.
I don't even think for her it's with dollars. I genuinely think she's just that way. I don't think it's money for her. She hasn't ever had to worry about it. Like, it is just how she is. And here's the last point I'll make about it is her side is all against the sanctimoniousness of, and they mention in the full podcast, like John Oliver, Jimmy Kimmel, and Jon Stewart. Like, I agree that there's parts of John Oliver stuff that's just like when he's stating the problem, it is quite sanctimonious. And Jon Stewart never does that. But they are willing to, in the same breath, say like, oh, I really love Dave Chappelle now. I really love Joe Rogan now. People who are in the midst of going on these insane sanctimonious diatribes about cancel culture that they're not really actually suffering from as they go exceed their viewership numbers more than they ever have in history in Joe Rogan's case.
Yeah, I want to also say that there's a little bit of an asymmetry on which side of this divide is the one who believes that they have literal divine mandate for everything that they feel in their gut. Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.